Hey, everyone. What's happening? Jeff C here. I hope you're having a nice week and hopefully you're not too, oh, there's me. There's me. I don't know if you can hear that, but anyways, I hope you're having a really nice week and you're not too stressed out by everything that's going on. We have a very important show here today discussing where the biotech community is taking humanity. It's basically off a giant cliff. It's quite scary what's happening behind the scenes. This is the type of stuff we do on this show where we look into the biotech community and the vaccines that are being developed. Not only the vaccines, but the mRNA vaccines, which are very important that's the future vaccines, or it's the present vaccines. This is where the vaccines are going to, and understanding what that means. Also, dealing with these 3D printed viruses, which sounds weird, sounds really sci-fi, but it's actually very real. It's becoming more and more easy for the biotech community and would be perhaps assassins to use to create their own sort of viruses and print them out and then release them. And what we're seeing happening around the world, everything is unprecedented. We're seeing a complete collapse of all our rights, especially in places like Australia, where there's a very small amount of deaths that are being attributed to the actual coronavirus. And yet the government has used the reason of the virus to take enormous powers and force everybody into lockdown. Unbelievably unconstitutional and extremely evil measures that are being implemented. Contact tracing, surveillance grids, drones, everything that's happening. And this is just the beginning. It seems like their way of moving forward is to get everybody first and foremost into a lockstep, but then to hit us with wave after wave after wave until there's really nothing but a virus sort of reality that we're all going to be living in, sort of thing. And there will be no privacy, no escape, and a lot of perhaps people being culled, a massive population cull. In fact, what they talk about in a lot of these discussions is that their fear, or ostensible fear, is that, environmentalists will release these custom sort of 3D printed viruses in order to cull the population. And so our our biotech community is there to save us all and make sure that we live long, healthy, happy lifestyles. Wink, wink. So they're working hard to counteract this. And how are they counteracting it? Well, by making their own 3D printed viruses, and at an ever accelerating pace, all ostensibly to prevent the next sort of scamdemic from happening and to keep us morally safer, of course. The mRNA vaccines, which is what is more than likely going to be what you're going to see come out of it. It's very important for people to understand what these are. So I'm just going to give you a sort of definition before I bring my good friend Camille in to discuss everything that's going on. So the mRNA vaccine is something very different because it's a unique way of making a vaccine, right? And it's never been licensed before for infectious diseases. And vaccines typically work by training the body to recognize and respond to the proteins produced by a disease-causing organism, such as a virus or bacteria. That's traditional vaccines are made up of small inactivated doses of whole disease-causing organism or the proteins that it produces, which are introduced into the body to provoke the immune system into mounting a response. So the whole concept of traditional vaccines spooks the hell out of me, period, because it's like giving you doses of the actual sickness in order to trigger the immune system and all that. So that's why there's so many creepy things, or one of the reasons why there's creepy things within your vaccines. But mRNA vaccines, in contrast, trick the body. So it's an illusion. It tricks the body into producing some of the viral proteins itself. They work using mRNA, or a messenger RNA, which is the molecule that essentially puts the DNA instructions into action. So inside a cell, mRNA is used as a template to build a protein. And mRNA is basically a preform of a protein, and its sequence encodes that the protein is basically made of later on. To produce an mRNA vaccine, scientists produced a synthetic version of an mRNA that a virus uses to build its infectious proteins. The mRNA is delivered into the body, whose cells read it as instructions to build the viral protein, and therefore create some of the virus's molecules themselves. These proteins are solitary, so they do not assemble to form a virus. The immune system then detects these viral proteins and starts to produce a defensive response to them. So this is along with the nanotech, which of course we've discussed in length in some of our shows before, the nanotech vaccinations, but this is like the future sort of vaccines, or the current vaccines that they're developing right now. Ostensibly, of course, to save us all from the scam, or the, pardon me, the coronavirus. And so we're going to get into all of this right now. I will bring in my good friend, Camille. How are you doing, Camille?
I'm doing all right. I hope everyone can hear me this time.
Yeah.
New microphone. Sorry.
So yeah, let us know in the chat there. Because it's weird. Last time when we did the show, you sounded great to me. Of course, you had your crappy micro.
Yeah.
It's
a $15 headset microphone.
Yeah, those ones. Yeah, you get what you pay for, but you sound so much more clearer and better.
Oh, good. I see people say that they can hear me. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming. And please do, if you can, share a link for this vid on social media, either now or later. Try to get more people to come in, because it's extremely important what we're discussing. And this is not a lot of people are looking into what's actually going on behind the scenes and all the connections. And it's pretty, whoa, I mean, it's pretty crazy. So with that being said, Camille, where should we start with? You want to show maybe a bit of your video that you've got?
I could try and play it in the background here. I don't know. Well, I don't know what the sound will do.
I don't think it'll do sound.
I don't think it'll do sound. Or I could just leave it play there. It was going so slow. I don't know if I'll crash anything, but I could try it. Okay. I don't know if you can hear that. I mute it. But yes, that it's so creepy, because they're saying that they're going to turn your body into the bioreactor with this, where before they needed to do that outside of you. But yeah, but they say at the same time, it doesn't edit your DNA at all. It just turns you into a bioreactor, but it doesn't change you. Yeah.
And the whole DNA sort of element to this, because of first and foremost, the massive DNA collection that has gone on for the past 2 decades.
Oh yeah.
And has been, like, they've tried to mandate it and make it compulsory. Here in Canada, the RCMP has tried several times to form a national DNA database. And around the world. And then if you look at the corporations that are actually collecting everyone's DNA, yeah, it's very scary. Of course, you've got things like Ancestry.com, National Queerographic, which is owned by Disney. And then even more importantly, 23andMe, which is the CEO of 23andMe is actually Anne Wojcicki, who is the sister of Susan Wojcicki, who's the CEO of YouTube. And then we look into the CRISPR gene editing, which is something that they're talking about even making mandatory. There was a minister in the British government who called for mandatory CRISPR gene editing of all babies by, I think it was year 2021. And so they are hell-bent in
now, what are we worried about?
Yeah, they want to manipulate everyone's DNA. So when they're talking about getting into your DNA and using your DNA, manipulating your DNA, it's pretty scary stuff.
It's nuts, because some of these companies have been at this for decades. And while they say, I think that this is a new thing if they do finally release an mRNA vaccine in humans, but it's not that it's something, this pandemic happened and we're going to try this. They've been at it for a long time. Even the printers. I have one of the things that I'll show in this video here is, well, I think I put it on the screen, is that 5 years ago, they were talking about how, is this vaccine on demand thing with these printers, the digital to biological printers, is this just a science fiction sort of thing? No, they've been at it for a while. They've really been working at it.
When we look into the foods, right, it all looks like, it's just happening now and it's because of what's happened. But no, they've been doing this for decades.
Yeah, it's just now's the time.
And you had Ray Kurzweil there on the screen for a second as well, who is one of the biggest players when it comes to the transhumanist movement. And,
and he says that video that showed him was a few years old, and he was saying in there that they are going to turn medicine into a digital technology, which they are. I mean, these printers, this is a completely synthetic thing. These mRNA printers that I talked about in the video here, that it's a completely synthetic product. It's a software. It's just a code that comes in and is produced using whatever they are pulling out of the air, or if they have it in a little cartridge. It's so crazy. And I don't know if people saw, I mirrored on my channel, our friend Anonymous. I Am a Werewolf, that I could put that on the screen. His video. If you haven't watched this, it's terrifying. This is on his channel, but we could put a link. I'm sure I'll put links when I mirror it too. But
I'm gonna mirror it on Jeff's Censored Encore.
Good.
Yeah, for sure. I would do it on my main channel, but and people, I think this, right? I'm blocked out for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Apparently, High Impact Vlogs went down today as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he lost his channel. That's what he.
Oh, they killed the channel completely.
But I think he still has High Impact Flicks, but.
Okay.
That's a channel with over 300,000 subscribers. So it's another, they're just more of the censorship, but not to get distracted here. Yeah. No. Anonymous, I did invite him to the show, but he's working right now, so he can't come. But shout out to Anonymous. Great work on this video. Yeah. And what he was showing in it, very crucially and important, is the 3D
terrifying.
printing.
Yeah.
with also all the connections to, how they've been plotting these things out, going back to Cladex, right, and having these synthetic bioterrorism sort of events, and how they would react to them, and the spooky sort of fear porn that they push out, that people could be printing up these viruses. And what I found was interesting, which is hilarious, when they say that when they're thinking of the terrorists that could be making these vaccines, right, using this tech and releasing it, the reason why that they give is to cull the population.
Yeah.
And it's the exact reason that you see on the Georgia Guidestones. You cannot make this SHIT up, folks, where it's like these people believe, and they're saying hypothetically, these people believe that if we can cull the population to pre-industrial sort of levels, 500 million or whatever, right, that we could save the planet. And that's exactly what Bill Gates and Co. and Kissinger and probably Musk and Ted Turner, all these globalists actually do believe, the Rockefellers and whatnot, is that we need to dramatically decrease the population in order, they say that, right? And they make us like all their agendas are everywhere, and they all tie together, right? The global warming, for instance, like how many articles, news reels and whatnot have been put out connecting, say, coronavirus and COVID-19 to actually climate change.
Oh, yeah. And how amazing all of these things that will solve the climate change problem will also solve the COVID thing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, wow. We're really fortunate.
And the food as well.
Yeah, and the food too.
Because the chickens and the pigs, right? and the whole production of meat is oh, that's one of the ways. And oh, isn't it so convenient, Camille, that some of the biggest outbreaks of this supposed COVID happened at these massive meat plants?
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
All connected, folks. You'd
Yeah.
have to think, like the way I think about it. As a kid growing up, I watched all the James Bond movies. It like literally is like the environmental sort of terrorist, Hugo Drax, or the guy from the Spy Who Loved Me and stuff like that, where you had these billionaires, trillionaires, or whatever, right, that wanted to save the world and rid the scourge of mankind and repopulate the planet with perfect sort of human specimens.
Better people, yeah.
Yeah, but that's actually what they want.
Yeah.
and the whole thing of DNA and CRISPR gene editing mixing with our mRNA vaccines, which are all about manipulating your DNA into to doing these things, all fit that narrative along with our foods and everything else. This re-engineering, and then the LGBT becomes to be XYZ programming that they put, which is a huge gateway into their transhumanist sort of future freaky Baphomet type human beings that they want for the future of this world. And all these characters, whether it's Kurzweil or it's Bill Gates or Elon Musk, they're all connected. They all play their roles in this massive plot.
You know what's funny? The last time that we talked, I talked about that book, I think it's Breakpoint, Richard Clark. One part that I didn't mention was they had bred gene-edited children that I think they added an extra chromosome so they could tinker with them in there, and that they required a special kind of baby formula. Like they brewed up some special mixture of food that if they didn't get it, they wouldn't live. And there was somebody poisoned them through, or were just trying to poison them through there. But when you look at the Tinker Toy food and the edited people, and it's so interesting how much that book was a decade ago, actually a decade plus, but spot on possibly with what they're doing. I mean, if they want to test us all the time. I mean, who they can. They want to get the testing done all the time, the children in the school and people in the old folks' homes and the healthcare workers, I feel, to see how their editing experiment is going. And then if they get everybody eating these foods, like they're coming in their Blue Apron box, and once they get the whole thing flowing, they could see, well, how do we need to tweak it to make, because I think they need to fix themselves. But the wind just blew my papers.
The tranny that they had in Vanonymous's video?
Yeah. I left a comment on his video, like, oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad you caught that, because I was like, my God, right away. And it was a what do you call it? A bioscientist who is running this corporation, right?
Wasn't that Twist Bioscience? Yeah.
Twist Bioscience, yeah.
Yeah, they're big. They're big.
Wow.
I paused my video here at this point because I was going to open this link up for us too, and then they killed the link that I have on my website to this document. So I think I have it saved somewhere, and I'll try to upload it. So if anybody ever sees any broken links, you can leave me a comment on YouTube, and I try to archive. I try to save them because I've had a lot of broken ones, but this is very interesting. I don't know if you want to talk about the CureVac and the RNA printer, because I don't know if people saw that this is it's like a desktop sort of thing that they want to put in the hospitals and at your local pharmacy, and they could put this in Tanzania, so that it eliminates the cold chain or whatever to get the vaccines to wherever they need to be. And then it just, like Craig Venter, who is the human genome guy, he was big in this digital to biological converter to be able to send the information and it pops out on the machine. I also have a video from 4 or 5 years back with Teva Pharmaceuticals, the Israeli pharmaceutical company. Yeah. They showed their future plans, and they had all the medicines being printed 3D right there in your home. So, but they they made a deal. This is Bill Gates backed CureVac, of course, and they're talking here. This was what, last year, February, about funding getting these devices out there, because they're not just talking about for the pandemic. They're talking, well, for future ones and for rabies and all sorts of other.
In the Anonymous video, they're talking about the 3D printers, and that these Bioterror or these environmentalists having the power to create these viruses, and that's the big fear that they have, and that they'll have to create these viruses themselves, through the 3D printing in order to keep us safe, sort of thing. So there'd be like an endless potential sort of new viruses popping daily with the tech. That this is what they're claiming, right? That this is, and what scares me is that we have this world, like we have, say, like there's the post 9/11 world, right, where everything changed because of 9/11. Well, now we have the post Kobe world, where everything has changed so dramatically, and that this could just be the first sort of a series of scamdemics, or actual even real viruses that are unleashed upon humanity, that they're actually just conditioning us with this one, getting everything set in place, and then that they could be hitting us again and again and again, and just, through the process of continual sort of traumatizing of all of humanity, conditioning them into being a slave state of just constantly surveyed, programmed sort of proletarians who,
Oh yeah, and we know they have no problem with releasing biological agents on populations. That Ed Regis, The Biology of Doom, terrifying book, but it's about the America's biowarfare program. And they're all about it. And that's old stuff in there that, they don't care. They don't care about us, obviously. And people would say that, well, what if they got affected? Maybe they already have their cure or something for themselves, or some.
It's interesting when at the White House, when Trump said way back when the whole thing was kicking off in the United States, that they've all been vaccinated. Do you remember that?
Yeah, in the press room or something.
Yeah. It's like, what? Wait a second. Well, I thought you guys are. And then, of course, when it comes to coronavirus, there's never been, as far as I know, there's never been a vaccine developed for coronavirus. And yet somehow they're going to develop this one in record time and have it ready. And you have all these ostensible companies, for big pharma, sort of competing with each other to race to get this race to the prize. Which I don't know if you know that, right? Race to the prize.
No, I know Race for the Cure, right? The breast cancer race.
Yeah, they use that race and prize. I mentioned Race to the Prize, and if anybody's a Flaming Lips fan, they'll know what I'm saying, because it's probably one of their best known songs. And what I showed was the Flaming Lips did a concert about a few months ago, maybe 2 months ago.
Oh, I think I saw you talk about this.
Yeah, in which everybody was in a bubble, like all the audience had their own bubbles.
One. Okay.
But the crazy thing about that, and what's his name there? The lead singer has always been doing the bubble thing for like 20 years, right? Like he one, or maybe even longer, 25 years. He's been like in his concert at one point at almost every concert, he gets into a bubble and then he goes into the crowd, right? And the crowd hold him up in the big bubble, sort of thing.
Like he's a beach ball. Like
yeah. Like you ever seen people that go in the bubbles, sort of thing? You can walk around inside them, and you can.
I've seen funny pictures of people with going into stores that way now.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about it is that the song Race for the Prize is about scientists competing, or two scientists fighting to save all mankind, that they're racing to develop a virus or cure for a virus that threatens all of mankind.
Oh my.
Yeah. You can't make this. And that song is like 20 years old at least, right? So it's
Well, that's how long CureVac's been around.
Yeah. And again, the name CureVac, right?
Yeah.
Like they love those types of acronyms or names, right? Like, oh, it's safe. It's CureVac. No, they want to keep us safe. I'm just surprised they didn't go for 33 million. That would have been perfect, but
I know. Maybe
a missed opportunity.
Better luck next time.
Yeah.
But,
so go ahead.
So we were talking beforehand how there was all kinds of Twitter back and forth. I didn't look at it too much with Bill Gates and Elon Musk and how they were insulting each other. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something like Billy G is not my lover or something. I don't even know. Weird stuff coming out of them. But yeah, so they say that Tesla has teamed up with CureVac which is backed by Bill Gates, to make these little printers, these micro factories. But they're saying, I think it's in this article, they say down here that, so it's a side project. Go away. Silly things.
It's so annoying.
I don't know if
Elon Musk, he tweeted there.
Yeah, he tweeted that as a side project.
Yeah, Tesla.
Yeah.
Wow. Get Tesla in your body, folks.
Yeah, I mean, it's so great that they're stepping up to the plate to help with this terrible thing going on. But then in this other article here about it, they're saying how at the bottom, sorry if I scroll too fast, and I can make it bigger, but they're saying here that the patent was filed by Tesla in June of last year for these little machines. Because like I said, they're not just using it for the corona thing. They want to use it for all kinds of other cooties we don't even know of yet, things they haven't even yet created, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'm realizing here that I thought it was kind of funny that they were doing like this little Twitter show for people like, oh, he doesn't know anything about vaccines. And meanwhile, the same company that they're teamed up together, well, maybe not totally buddy, but they're both working with the same company and Bill gave gobs of money to them, right?
It's all part of their illusion, right? To make you believe that there isn't some sort of concerted sort of globalist coup that's happening, which it absolutely is, folks. And Elon Musk and Bill Gates are 100% on the same team.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I just am realizing that I didn't open this other thing that might take a moment to open, but sorry, it's got a page load. Ahead. Yeah. But their SEC filing that CureVac did in July, this here, once it opens and I go down like quite a bit of pages, this says here that the deal didn't just happen last year and it didn't just happen now, that it actually happened quite a while ago.
This is the deal with Tesla and Bill Gates?
CureVac. Well, and CureVac, yeah. Bill Gates backed CureVac to make these
Is there anything printers. Bill is not behind?
Good things, I would imagine.
Anything that's good that's happening, probably Bill Gates not behind it. If there was like a legitimate cure for cancer. And interesting too with the 3D printed sort of viruses, they're talking about developing 3D printed viruses to cure cancer.
Oh yeah.
So they're trying to sell you that, oh yeah, we can print these viruses that will actually fight cancer cells and stuff like that. Like,
they're using viruses as an alternative to pesticides too, all kinds of crazy stuff. Oh my goodness, it jumped. I didn't even do that. It's still loading over here, and I couldn't make it bigger, but I don't know if you can see this, but it's and it won't even let me highlight. But do you see where I have this here? It says that they made this deal in 2015.
Wow. Yeah, we entered into a development and intellectual property agreement with which we referred to Tesla Grohmann Agreement.
Oh my gosh. I didn't do anything.
It's okay.
It went away. There now.
Oh, you've got some highlighted there. Yeah, the Bill and Gates Melinda Foundation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're there.
Yeah.
There we go. Sorry. It's back. Yeah, that's a German facility that they purchased, this Grohmann.
Tesla Grohmann?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And CureVac's a German company too, so maybe it makes sense that they'd be close by. Oh my goodness, why does it keep doing that? I'm gonna stop that little thing.
It's because it's still loading, and what happens when it loads is that the cursor will shrink a little bit because it's a big file, and then it'll just keep moving where you are, right? Because it's just bad software.
Yeah,
you know
left
why?
the big one.
It's because it's Bill Gates software.
It is.
I wanted to talk about that for a second too.
Go for it.
We briefly discussed that before coming on. That there's no irony, folks, at least in my opinion, that Bill Gates is synonymous with viruses.
No.
That Microsoft was designed for viruses. That like I'll just try to explain this to folks, because someone like, okay, my history in covering, say, especially the Ebola of 2014, I did so much work into this predictive programming and the programming of the masses. Like there was a recent article on Vulture, which is just Disney, basically Beast Media, in which I think they did the top 67 movies on viruses. And I was like I knew there were dozens, but 67, like the top. Now there's probably hundreds if you really work it down. And then we don't know around the world how many different movies are made in, Iran and China and whatnot dealing with this. But what I was showing back in 2014 was that they had for decades been programming people into fearing the invisible enemy, which is using Hollywood and movies and television and sitcoms and commercials and everything else to get you to fear the virus. And simultaneously, while that programming was happening, you had computer viruses, which have been front and center when it comes to computers, and the whole programming of people through using the tech through the viruses that almost, I would say most of the time, are actually being manufactured by corporations like Microsoft in order to get you to, use more surveillance sort of software to protect yourself, but more importantly, to program you into a fear of viruses, because it's a psychological thing that's happening. What's happening in Melbourne should never happen. The scumbag there, that Dave Andrews guy, should be hanging from I want to say it, but I'm not going to say it, but there should be a mob collecting these people right now. There's no way that should ever happen in a current sort of so-called democracy. It is through the programming. You don't realize it. You're playing the video games, you're watching the shows, you're seeing the sitcoms, you're seeing the news, and that for decades they have been making you fear this. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is how they control people. So viruses, computer viruses, all these things are all part of that massive social engineering to get people to do what you want them to do when you present the invisible enemy to them, right? So the lockstep essentially would not manifest if people didn't have this massive programming for the past few decades. There's no way that people would just be like, forget about it. I don't care. I just want to, go about my business sort of thing. But because people are terrified, because
and that's what the masks are, to keep us remembering that the scary thing is here.
Not only that, but to take away our ability to socialize and recognize people and form communities and relationships and trust and all these things, because touch and trust are so essential, right? And all these things. So yeah, it's very diabolical what they've done. It's easy.
I'm going to close this. I'm sorry. I'm going to close this. I will include the link, but I just wanted people to see that in November of 2015, they're saying this agreement was made. So it took 5 years to make the news, but it made the news finally. So I'm just going to close that and look at another creepy thing here.
Yeah,
but
let's
continue.
bring up the next one here.
Well, just that this is just, I wanted to point out the patents for CureVac, that one of them here that's new is vaccination in newborns and infants. That's just great. Yeah.
Well,
this month is the date of that. I mean, and they've got tons on here, but
can you just imagine newborns and they're taking like one of the most disturbing things, and I covered this too. Was CNN was putting out reports about newborns being separated from their mothers.
Yeah.
And they can't even hold their baby.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think there's anything more diabolical in the history of the world than like, if you think about it, a mother giving birth and not being able to hold her baby. Right?
It's
like the baby being rushed into a room and then maybe put behind a plexiglass screen or whatever, put it in a container so the mother can like look at it.
And they know that's bad for them.
Oh,
they know they need to be
not
touched.
bad. It's horrendous. In fact, I would argue that could destroy or damage the baby for life, because that initial sort of holding and
they've done studies.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Studies, and it's sick. Yeah. Back in the day.
I mean, like it's so evil what's going on. So I'm actually, I mean, this is like the worst horror. It's like the worst Black Mirror episode ever, and it just gets worse by the day as we move forward, and we just see all the different things that they're doing. But yeah, that's really diabolical, because they'll convince mothers that, oh yeah, this is best for your baby. This will keep your baby safe, right? We're gonna, and start injecting vaccines instantly into its body. And you just think about the baby, what it comes into birth. It's alive. I mean, it's alive in the womb, but it's like breathing now. And here you are sticking needles. It's just a horror story. Sorry, go ahead, Camille.
Oh, I don't really have too much more to talk about on these guys, but I'll be sure that we have all of the links. I don't know if you want to go to the next little topic or not.
Go to the next one, sure.
But yeah, Tesla. So not just for cars. And then we've talked about this before. This is this Amy Webb. She's a futurist. She's on some shows like This Week in Google and This Week in Tech. She's on there a lot, and they just love her. She's one of the ones that's all about, she's so glad the upside to this whole nightmare that we're living through is that synthetic biology is really coming of age, and that the glasses, the smart glasses are coming, and she's just such a fan. But I saw on her Twitter, I don't do Twitter, but I look at some Twitter, and I saw that she was talking about how it helps to stimulate the vagus nerve through your earpieces to help you learn languages. So I just figured I'd show.
Okay, yeah. And you did a video a few months back where you talked about the wireless tech being used to read people's minds.
Yeah, well, and that Poppy Crumb from Dolby, she's from Dolby, and yeah, she gets really excited. She knows that they can edit you and change you, because the vagus nerve goes all through your body, and like it's a direct connect to the brain, and there's mental health components to it, which it's not like they want everybody to have mental health issues right now, huh? But oh my goodness. Every time I see people wearing these things, these little wireless earbuds, I'm like, do you know what that is?
Well, yeah. Okay. So it's very important for people to pay attention to the so-called tech trends and the shills, the abominable NWO shills on YouTube and other platforms that push this stuff. Because not only people like Amy Webb, but MKSD or whatever that guy's name is.
They have him on the show too.
Yeah, of course, right? And all these other characters, like the guy with the baseball cap there, what's his Unbox Therapy. Think about that. Unbox Therapy from unboxing something.
Because you get a new toy.
Yeah, he somebody who's in a suspended state of childhood who is getting these toys, including one of his latest toys that he got, and this is always featured on Trendy. They get millions and millions of views. Was a robot dog, the Boston
Spot?
Dynamics. Yeah. He got the Boston Dynamics dog, and he was saying it was the coolest thing he's ever seen.
Didn't they put those on? Didn't they put screens on Spot, and they're having them be doctors?
Yeah, they're doing all of that. Yeah. Look, I covered it first. Well, I've covered the dogs going years back, but the here in Montreal, they started bringing the dogs for construction sites, and I was saying when it was January this year, before the whole scamdemic thing broke out, and I was saying, look at this. I did a video on it, and I said, look what they're doing. They're automating. Everything's becoming automated, right? They're moving us towards this, and they're getting you used to the robot dogs. Yeah. And they've been using this sort of oh, these things are so cool and all that, and wouldn't it be fun to have one of these? And but really they're quite sinister because they're getting you used to robots taking over while they're deconstructing the police forces. And this is where it's going, folks. They're going to bring in RoboCops. There's no doubt about it, no question whatsoever that they're getting you used to it. Just like with all the delivery systems, all the pizza places in California, places like that, they're switching to automated services. They're gonna, and this is bad news if you're a truck driver, you're a pizza delivery guy, and you're listening to the show. You don't have too many more years left of work. I mean, it could be months the way that it's going, sort of thing. But they're going to automate all of that. They're getting us accustomed to it, and they're showing you slices, and they show you some of the horrors that can happen with Black Mirror and stuff like that. But really, it's just a matter of getting you to accept that this will be the reality moving forward.
I know I saw that in Rwanda, they've got the robots, and not Spot, but they have other robots in the hospital working with and that's Africa. They're normalizing it there. And there was on that Exponential Africa show, they had the Ghana's robotics challenges, all the stuff. It's huge there.
And making like Sophia a citizen, right? The talking toaster there from Saudi Arabia. And also another thing that I talked to you before we came online is the Fit watches. So the Apple watches and the so-called Fit watches, because
why would knockoffs,
why would you just be fit? You need a piece of tech to make you fit, right? Because why would you exercise?
So many people wearing those.
And what are those? And I told people way back in 2014, 2015 when they first came out, I said, this is tech that is designed to monitor you and survey you.
Talk that eventually they'll be able to sample you, like what your makeup is at the moment, by sensors and little gizmos on the backside. And I know I've heard people say, oh, that's so far off. Oh, how could they do that? But Apple and specifically has showed how they have all this tech that's in their devices, and they don't activate it for years. They were just complaining about this on This Week in Google. I would have loved that years ago, but the public wasn't ready for it.
Not ready. But and they are right now using these smartwatches to detect coronavirus.
Yeah.
Ostensibly, right? Telling you, and they're saying that now these things can detect it in your body. And long before you would have any of the symptoms, which of course is like, isn't that convenient? Oh, my watch just told me I have coronavirus. Well, we're going to quarantine you and start injecting you right away. Don't worry, though. Thank God you had the smartwatch on, because chances are you're not going to really suffer all that much. And
they were just talking about the smartwatches too, for like, oh, well, we want everyone to be able to be contact traced. But if your child doesn't have a smartphone yet, what's wrong with you? If your child doesn't have a smartphone yet, but they have a smartwatch that you can link it to, they're talking about linking it to your device, and then they can be tracked. And when they get back to you, it'll update your phone, and all this is all these little devices.
Oh yeah. And also to throw in there, Bibi himself, Benjamin Netanyahu, came out earlier, I think it was last year, and said that he wants all children to be microchipped, all babies. And that's important to point out as well, because here in Montreal,
we willingly carry them around and strap them on our children. You have to.
In Montreal last year, they forced all pet owners to get all pets, like it doesn't matter if it's a bunny rabbit, right? Cats, dogs, everything, to be microchipped and fixed right at the same time. It's ironic because that's what they want to do to all of us.
Yeah.
So and again, it's easy to get caught up in the RFID and the mark of the beast and think, their ultimate goal is to get everyone microchipped. Well, that's a bit 1970-ish sort of. They actually want more of the quantum dot tattoos more than anything, right? They want the tech, the biotech in your body, constantly hooked up to the hive, hooked up to the whole surveillance grid. They want every single thing about you. I talked about it too earlier this year in Toronto, where they were developing this corporation was developing these portals that you would have to walk through to get into your grocery store or anywhere. And these portals would be able to detect not only your body temperature and identify you and all that, but also detect if you have any chemicals in your system, whether you've been drinking or taking any drugs.
Yep.
And also at the same time, the tech would be in the stores to alert any violations of social distancing. So if you're not keeping a full 6 feet away from somebody, alarm would go off. And then just the other day, I covered it. Major League Baseball bringing in, and all these things that they're doing, the cameras to detect people violating the face mask. So that they could detect if somebody is not wearing their face mask properly.
Are people going to baseball games then?
Not yet. No, they're paying good money to get a cardboard sort of image of themselves put in the stands.
Do you think that they're going to have, like, you could go to the game in virtual or augmented reality, and you could be in the dugout, and you could be in the stand, and you would have to buy that really good seat in the stand where your camera,
definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. That's where it's all going. Okay, so another thing, these things all are connected. Both Google and Microsoft, and I'm sorry I don't have this ready, but it just came to me now, discussing this. But both Google and Microsoft have put billions of dollars into augmented reality, and this is going back a few years. And augmented reality, for the most part, hasn't been a huge thing, but they know, because they know the scamdemics are coming and all that, that augmented reality is going to be ginormous.
Oh, and yeah, Camille is a big fan. She was just talking about how Amazon's their kind of smart glasses that they came out with that puts Alexa in your ear. That's like the soft rollout. They're really cheap. You can get them prescription. It might not have a smart lens, but you can get people used to it. And I've seen 2 different companies that have their 3rd generation or whatever glasses that are smart, that do have it on the screen, that can do the augmented, and that they're already working on the 3rd generations. Yeah.
So what we're going to have going forward most definitely is that change where they're going to they want to break us down. They don't want us to form communities and be able to rise up, and so this is all how they're doing it. And you see with Melbourne is an excellent example, Victoria, Australia, banning people. I mean, they're doing it everywhere, but it's much worse there. It's just like they're really going full 1984 sort of thing. But you can say, well, guess what? Okay, maybe you won't be able to go to the baseball game, but you could be there. And if you pay enough money, you could be seeing things from the view of the pitcher or the catcher, right? Or you could be the first baseman, and you could see, and they'll have maybe the Google Eye or like the goggles or glasses on or something like that, right? Which would relay that sort of. And it'll change the experience. I think that's where a lot of this is going.
I still say, how long will they need the players? Even because of how realistic they can make stuff. I'm going to click over.
Oh yeah. I
click to the Soul Machines people. How long will they need real people playing?
Well, I mean, like I freak out when it's like Zion Williamson, right? Like, I know he's real. But it is really bizarre.
Well, how much would they have to pay them to stay home? We've got you.
Yeah, like how are you going to know in the future if their tech is so advanced? And the deep fakes as well, they're pushing that massively on YouTube, by the way. I don't know if you catch any of that. But I'll show this coming up in a show, maybe on Friday or something like that. The deep fake, they really push this a lot. So that the deep fake, right, where they're able to digitally impose. And so they're doing this with all the movies. And they're saying, for instance, like one I caught the other day when I was logged into Supreme Lord Commander was they took the Indiana Jones, and one of the original choice to play Indiana Jones was Tom Selleck, right? But they went with Harrison Ford.
Really?
Yeah.
I couldn't see that.
Yeah. Well, Tom Selleck, I guess back in the day, right? He was like a superstar or whatever. And so, anyways, they deep faked Tom Selleck onto the body or whatever, the face of, and it's flawless. Like you can't really, like if you were watching it for the first time, you probably wouldn't know. And they're already at that point with this stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised that most of your celebrities and stars in the future will be deep fakes or will be just digitally sort of created. I imagine these characters are already popping up. They're already using them in newscasts, right?
Yeah.
Like
I think it was this company too is being used for news.
And you see the symbolism, the as above, so below with the soul machines, right? It's clear. It's part of this new world order here.
Didn't they use that same sort of thing for one of the Star Wars movies and then the Hunger Games too? Somebody died, and so they had that. Yeah,
they did it with. So they did the recent for Star Wars. They did it twice, if I can recall correctly. One was with Peter Cushing, who had passed away quite a while ago, and they digitally recreated him. And a lot of people thought it looked poor and stuff. Maybe the tech has just gone that much further already, or maybe they were just purposely making it look that way to say, "Oh, yeah, we're still developing it. Don't worry, we'll, get better at it." And they did it with Carrie Fisher, in the more recent one. So yeah, it's already happening. So this is another way. I think this is what you're going to see in the future, because you won't be able to touch your stars anymore. The Ready Player One, which is Steven Spielberg, right? Movie in which people live in a vastly overpopulated sort of dystopic, Hunger Game-ish, frickin', global warmed dystopia sort of thing. And the only escape is to put on a virtual bodysuit and go into virtual reality, in which you can absolutely perfectly simulate reality in a virtual world, so that your body and your mind are completely tricked into thinking.
You can be the furry person you want to be and be happy. Yeah.
Well, in a way, you could say that things like World of Warcraft, right? Which I don't know if you're familiar with, but these,
I've heard of it.
Yeah, there are these worlds. Grand Theft Auto would be another one, or like there's so many of these virtual worlds that you go online and people live kind of vicariously through these computer avatars, right? So Avatar 2 as well, the movies, right? Avatar, that's the theme, and Avatar is well, it's kind of the theme similar to Ready Player One, in which you go into an avatar, like you're in a perfect sort of suspended state where you feel and touch and everything through your avatar sort of character. And then the new Avatar movies are all coming out in succession over the next few years, eh? Like there's going to be like 3 or 4 of them or something.
They have the haptic suits, the full body suits, and the one company they featured them on the Exponential Africa, that it's a Tesla suit. That's yeah.
So they really are. I think in many ways, and they've been setting this up forever. So when I say like World of Warcraft, for instance, what happens to people is people were dying. Actually, I don't know if you know this, right? Like quite a few people died in South Korea from playing World of Warcraft.
I don't get it. I don't get the fascination, but I don't like it.
Yeah. Well, this is it though. Like you're fortunately not been programmed into playing these things, but these games are designed to be extremely addictive and to keep you playing endlessly. And the rewards, all games work that way. In that they know
how to keep you clicking. Yeah.
They get you. Yeah, they get you doing these things. And it's really crazy. In fact, one of the games, and I just tried it because I do have PlayStation, right? And I got it because I have the PlayStation Plus, and there's a game out now called The Fall Guys. It's probably the biggest game right now. All the YouTube people are pushing it. Like everyone's playing it, right? It becomes the trendy thing. And the interesting thing is that the basic theme is massive. It's battle royale. It's depopulation. It's Hunger Games. but
what a
it's like
surprise.
it's cutesy sort of Hunger Games, and yeah, where you're like these little plush characters that, you know, almost everybody dies, or at least like in every session half the people die, sort of thing, and it whittles down till there's just one, and you just keep going back and you keep going back and keep going back. And I've talked a lot about this over the years, the psychology of the survivor mentality, the battle royale mentality in the programming, in your video games and in your movies and in your television shows, in which they have been programming you into massive depopulation. But not only depopulation, because the basic theme of all these games is only one can survive, and that you have to form alliances just to, at the strategic point in time, turn against those people that you form the alliances with.
Isn't that the Highlander too? There can be only one.
Yeah, exactly. So they are been conditioning people into this post sort of apocalyptic world in which, you know, you'll be killing each other off basically to survive. And that they use the term ally all the time, right? They're using it with the scamdemic. They're using, obviously, with the LGBT begins to be XYZ, right? They say allies, allies, allies. You have to be an ally. BLM, they use the ally term all the time. So yeah, anyways, you're getting a little bit off track. I'll get you back here with the whole soul machines.
I just had to go there because we were talking about.
No, it's great. No, it's all so relevant. So
they're so creepy. I don't know if we were going to go to the next tab I have open, as we had mentioned, or we talked about this, I don't know, a show or two ago with that Josiah Zahner crazy guy who runs the Odin, where you can buy all the little bits and pieces to do your own genome editing at home on tiny things. And then they had a whole series where they were teaching people how to make your own DNA vaccine for the coronavirus, and they injected themselves. These three here.
Wow.
And there was big jokes. I think their 1 week follow-up, because people thought the girl died and everything, but obviously she's there. I don't know, but I just want to show that they're nuts. And people were commenting like, there's 3 new strains of this disease or whatever disease out there now because of these people injecting it in themselves and making themselves into little factories. But yeah. Crazy.
Oh yeah, it too. Another thing, because like I'm in the music world, and so like I follow a lot of music channels, and there are specific shills within the music world that are giving themselves up as so-called lab rats to test the viruses or the vaccines. And like there's one guy in particular that I caught, and he's like, I'm donating my body to science, and it's like here you are, you're a musician. And he's married to a television star or something like that, right? And then next thing you know, I'm donating my body to science to test out these vaccines. And yeah, they do this massively. They show a lot of celebrities or people that are connected that you may not know are celebrities or are not. Maybe you don't know that they're crisis actors or whatnot. Of course, we know crisis actors don't exist, right? But a lot of the characters that they're using to act as alleged guinea pigs for so-called, cures to the coronavirus, it's all part of their machination. It's all part of their skit, right? To get you to buy into whatever they want to put into us moving forward. So,
and this here plays right into the bioterrorism thing, like Jules from Before the First Cup would always talk about, back in mommy's back bedroom, that these people are tinkering, you don't know who they are, and they democratized, is their word, they democratized the technology of CRISPR and other editing platforms, and they sell all the goodies to do it. And it doesn't take that much. It's all about the code, I guess, and then how you program it, and what they could, any crazy person could get a hold of this stuff. And it's just like at the local universities here, they have hackathons. Like they push people to be hackers. It's like, I thought that was a bad thing. I know they're looking for exploits and things to fix these technologies and whatnot, but they encourage people to figure out how to do all this stuff,
and then they can work for Microsoft.
yeah. And we have such a a demoralized, like I just read a great book that was 100 years old. It's Gene Stratton Porter, The Keeper of the Bees. Wonderful story. But they're talking in there, they were concerned about the youth being just losing their way and just turning into these immoral creatures, which you totally see now,
like 2020.
Yeah. But and then they're giving them all of these tools and teaching them how to use it. I think this guy, it seems so irresponsible. But of course, they want people to know how to do this, because then everything you do is teaching their machines, so that it's like, well, that didn't work for that guinea pig. And then sorry, that was a really loud car.
Can barely hear it, but I heard a little bit.
But they're using everybody to develop these technologies, just like Africa. They're big on pushing it there. Anyway, I just thought I'd show these crazy people that who knows what they're doing. Who knows what the people, these 100 or 700 people that watched their things, who knows what they'll develop. It's scary. But also, since we're on YouTube, the Wired people, that Jane Metcalf, the video you could find on my channel, Is This the Future of Our Species? She founded this Neo Life. She also is a co-owner of a chocolate company. I don't know if it's biotech or anything, but there's some technology enhanced chocolate company. But I just how they're pushing on one side how to turn us into little science experiments and everything, and how to normalize that and get that out to everybody. And then they push all this nonsense and garbage, all these stupid things. Like, I don't need to see 3 videos about this. The Blossom, right? That's the character, this Mayim Bialik lady. Anyway,
man.
It's just,
where do these people come from? But yeah, it's all the beast media.
They're huge. Look, they've got millions of subscribers, and
it's the same as Disney. It's all the same. Like all your popular promoted YouTube garbage is all your mind control. It's all your programming. It's all from our controllers. It's all what they want you to see. It's the same as TED, right? It's exactly the same. It's just maybe a lighter form of TED, right? And I do subscribe all these channels on Supreme Lord Commander, so I'm familiar with them. They push things. So you see they're pushing alcohol and they're pushing drugs right on the front there. They always push that stuff. It's just,
have you noticed on alcohol that I see all these things about how the uptick of alcohol consumption through this whole pandemic thing? All the gas stations sell the alcohol slushies, the adult slushies here. It's new around here. But
really?
You can get it anywhere. Slushy Lord. Gallon jugs. I've seen the ads. Gallon jugs of.
Well, it is a suspended form of childhood as well, because that's what a slushy is, right?
Yeah.
Or at least that's, you go to 7-Eleven or something like that to get a slushy, which is just horrible stuff anyways. But it keeps you in that. Butt feed is the best example of it. If you are a consumer of butt feed, you are probably an extreme degenerative, sort of dysfunctional, depressed, obese.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like all the bad things, but it's okay. You're wonderful. No, actually, you're not. That's the reality is, no, you're not. You've got all these problems and you're not fixing any of them. You're going to butt feed and butt feed's telling you you're wonderful. When the opposite is really true. The reality is, and the normalization of mental illness is everywhere. Like embracing your mental illness. This is all in your movies. It's in your television shows. It's in your commercials.
Over the billboards here too. Yeah.
Are
It's your family? Are you in the military and your family is depressed? We've got a solution for you.
Well,
go talk to the Soul Machines people.
PTSD, right? Like it's now applied to people that lawn bowl, or I don't know. It's like you could get it from anything, and it's like no. Post-traumatic stress disorder was diagnosed way back when for the soldiers and stuff that fought on front lines in World War I and stuff, right? Where they would be psychologically damaged by the constant shelling and the horrors of seeing their comrades being blown the smithereens. But now everyone has post-traumatic stress disorder. Now your children have post-traumatic stress disorder, right? This is all leading to the brain chips. And also, we should bring this up. I sent you the article. Can you open that just for a second there? Because it kind of fits in that, which is the conversation here. I'm going to get into this. I'll probably devote a full video, which I'll probably put on BitChute because of the censorship. But it goes to show you how diabolical this is, where they're actually suggesting that the way to solve all those people who are resistant to the scamdemic is to drug them.
Yeah. Yep.
And the conversation.com is the same as the Wired, is the same as TEDx, is the same as Disney. It's all the same beast. So if they're saying this, that means they've got it coming, sort of thing, or they're going to try to push this through. But morality pills, and you talked about lithium, right?
Yeah.
You want to, that's nuts.
It's big in the news right now.
The 7-Up thing, that's so crazy.
Oh yeah.
Show this first. Yeah, talk about this before.
And one thing with the lithium in the water, because there's news all over the place lately about drugging us in the water because of all the suicides, because everybody's so sad because their whole world's been destroyed. Well, another thing that's also going on is the water authorities and the water systems places, the public-private partnerships that are going on to take over all the utilities. Mm-hmm. I mean, in my town, they put fluoride in the water, and they can't, they say, even though people have come to the city council, when you were still allowed to go talk to city council and everything, that people would complain. They say it's out of our hands to get the fluoride out of the water because they're an independent authority, so if they feel that everybody's so sad, then why not make it easier on this and put.
And they show that in the Batman films, like that they would drug the water as a method of population control. It's just insane when you think about it. Can you show that?
The ad.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, that's recent. That's August.
So you think about this, folks. Obviously, suicide now might be at an all-time high. It actually might.
They've brought this up in the past, but now it's perfect, right?
Yeah, like people are, because of the scamdemic and the economic destruction and people losing their jobs and whole industries being furloughed or completely destroyed. I mean, the airline industry is finished pretty much, or like Air Canada laid off 15,000 people. It's like, how many people actually work for, or no, 15, I think it was like 150,000. I don't know. It's ridiculous. But the tourism industry, the cruise lines, all these things, hundreds of thousands, millions of jobs being destroyed, people being depressed, people being stuck at home watching their mind control, which is designed to depress you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, honestly, Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, those are the only shows I watch. So those are the ones I can really comment on. But those shows are designed to depress you and psychologically manipulate you and traumatize you and affect your sort of dream psychosis and everything else. So, and movies and video games and all these things do the exact same thing. So they are manufacturing depression and they are normalizing. Go ahead.
I heard them mention on This Week in Google, they were talking about watching movies and things and people that they're not wearing masks in those movies. And they're like, oh my gosh, you're so close together. Oh my gosh, you're touching.
It's insane, eh? It's like, could you imagine, folks, that the world would change so quickly for what they've done?
It's amazing.
And this is nothing new. Like when they talk about doing this to our water, obviously we know with fluoride, right?
Yeah.
Fluoride is one of the most toxic chemicals in the world. Like it's one of the most, I think it's one of the top 10 most toxic chemicals that's ever been developed. There's absolutely zero justification. If you try to come to me, like say you're a dentist, and you try to come to me and say, no, it's to help lower cavities or something. It's like drinking turpentine to relieve your digestive problems or something, right? Like,
and they say it's a totally different substance than what the is it hydrofluorosilicic acid that they're putting in the water, the stuff that eats concrete, that's what they put in the water. But what the tablets, if you really wanted your child or yourself, although it's, I think they say even that whatever benefit they say there is really only for children when their teeth are developing. I don't.
There is no benefit. That's garbage. No. Look, and again, anybody, you can go and check this out. In Africa, for instance, all the kids, like I'm not saying like, places like Nairobi or whatever, developed cities, but I'm saying non-developed areas, the kids have almost zero cavities, like zero. Their teeth are beautifully pearly white. Why? Because they have nothing. They have none of our junk food. They don't have Ruffles. They don't have Coca-Cola. Maybe now they do.
Yeah,
right?
Now they've got Coca-Cola. They have Coca-Cola Wi-Fi booths.
And Coca-Cola with the acid and what they put in it, actually, that's what it does. It attacks your tooth enamel and destroys it, right? So like most of what you take is designed to hurt your teeth and stuff like that. And look at the gums, right? Like all the gum now is sugar-free. And it's like, wow, isn't that great? It's sugar-free. It's the same illusion that they play when they say fat-free, right? Yeah. Or they say low fat, or they say glucose, or what is it? All the different things that they put on the label, right? Like, oh, now no trans fats or whatever, right? Like they manipulate you into thinking something's healthy. And they've been doing this forever, when it's actually, no, it's coming from the beast. It's not healthy at all. We know. I mean, you know better than anyone. You're covering this all the time. But this is the reality, is that what they try to convince you is this is going to be better for the overall population. So we'll put it in the water and then everyone will get it. Well, and again, too, with the water, before I get to what I want to say, I want you to show that 7-Up thing just to give a historical sort of precedent for where they've tried to do this before.
Where they've done it before. Yeah.
They've done it before.
This, I made a new friend recently, and she sent me this. This is and I scanned this earlier. This is a label from an original label for 7-Up that they launched this lithiated lemon soda to make you happy, but 2 weeks before the stock market crash in the 20s. So good timing. And they had it for decades. It says, I copied from an article here that they had it until 1948. That started 2 weeks before the crash in 1929. But yeah, lithium citrate. But
nothing new at all. That they've been doing this, and whatever they've been putting into our drinks. I mean, it covered. For instance, I've shown it several times. It still freaks me out, which is the Soylent Green beverage that they actually sell.
I did finally watch it.
Yes. I mean, it's highly toxic. It's actually really bad for you, and yet it's approved, and it's sold, and it's a meal supplement. And what they're saying with the Prop 67 in California, because they have a health proposition or health clause that, you can't have certain levels of lead and cadmium and stuff like that. And this thing is like dozens of times over the limit of what those chemical limits would be. And it's like, why would they put lead and cadmium and things like that into a beverage that's supposed to be a meal supplement, it's supposed to be healthy? Mm-hmm. Well, because it's not supposed to be healthy. It's supposed to destroy your health. And that's why they call it Soylent, because it's Soylent Green.
Do we know who who owns this company?
Oh, gosh. People would say every single time, and that's all we can say, I guess. I don't know. You're not allowed to say that anymore? I don't know, right? You can't talk about people. You're not allowed to talk about. It's our controllers. But there you go. I mean, 7-Up, Coca-Cola, of course, the original Coca-Cola had cocaine in it and stuff like that, right? So, but yeah, 7-Up putting lithium, and this is 2 weeks before the Great Depression, so they know what's coming, right? They orchestrated what came. The Creature from Jekyll Island orchestrated the Great Depression, which they choreographed and they timed perfectly. And we'll put this lithium in. This will pacify people and make it. Well, they do this to everyone, anyways, right? It's like the watching news or watching television is designed like that. Like it's designed it's like puppies and machine guns, where you're either terrorizing people and then you're flipping to, whoa, look at this cute little otter, right? And suicide rates are through the roof in this area, and here's LGBT people being targeted, and here's a cute dolphin or something, right? They do this endlessly to you. It's how they mind control us. Television is mind control. That's all it is, right? It's not that it couldn't be useful if it was used proper or in a humane way, sort of thing, but it's used to control us. But there you go, through the water. Just another thing. Again, it's always the real solutions are for humanity to get off the beast system, to get away from their water. Have your own water, right? Purify your own water. Drink from a well.
Yeah, because it's not just drinking it. You are bathing in it, and your skin's your biggest organ. What goes on goes in. So, I mean, even if it's horrible sakes. I mean, not that many people probably have well water, but
you probably would think, oh, I don't know if I could trust it, and then you'd probably drink it, and you'd be like, oh my God, I feel so good. I'm sleeping so much better. My God, my skin's cleared up. It'd be like all these things, and oh my God, all of a sudden I'm thinking the I don't know what the stats are for IQ. From what I've heard, it's below 100 in the United States, which would be the same here in Rainbow Unicorn Land, the average IQ sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But all of this type of toxins and with the programming and everything else lowers people's cognitive abilities massively. Like, I know this purely from my own experiences. Like, if I'm on, say, eating some junk food and drinking alcohol and stuff and abusing my body, I know that my cognitive abilities go way down. And it's just natural. But like, look at people, like kids drinking Red Bull and stuff in high school and whatnot, right? Like, they have no idea of what it feels like to be good, what it feels like to be fit, and to have your cognitive abilities fully functioning, sort of thing. So they have no gauge to know what is good or not. Like I said with butt feed, right? Like, butt feed is cancer, just like pro sports. It's cancer, meaning that if you consume it, it will hurt you. It will kill you. Eventually, it will kill you. There's no question in my mind that butt feed will kill people, because people will think it's okay to eat all the horrible toxins, all the foods, drink all the crappy beverages, be obese, be LGBT, X, Y, Z, drink lots of alcohol, take drugs. All these things are normalized by our beast media, because they want to they want to eliminate any sort of possibility of uprising. And this is with the scamdemic, destroying communities, destroying the ability for people to congregate, right? The ability for people to see each other and touch each other and all these things. They know how that controlling those elements will help them secure their control system, sort of thing. So it's all being choreographed.
And who's to say if they started putting the lithium in the water systems that they wouldn't tell you right away? Like, they might report it, but maybe 3 weeks after it's in there and you're already getting the effect of it, and you're like, oh, that's not so bad. I feel so good now, 'Cause, like, I know we were talking before about the testing the wastewater for the coronavirus sort of thing, that they didn't tell in my city that we're part of that study, and they didn't tell us until a couple weeks after they said they started taking the samples. And it's the same authority that runs the wastewater as the drinking water here. It's not as bad as it sounds, I hope, but
it sounds bad.
I don't think it's quite Bill Gates' toilets.
In Japan, they're talking about putting the lithium to prevent suicide.
Yeah, sorry, I put this one on here. This was recent, but I thought it said that they were checking out between 2010 and 2016. But this, now, I don't know. I hope people can read it. I tried making a window bigger earlier. Maybe I can enlarge this. Yeah, there we go. Read it. Oh, okay. But I don't know if you read this the same way that I'm reading it, but it sounds like for the suicide effects that it's better for the women, that it helps them more, but that it says here the present findings reconfirm the inverse association between lithium levels in drinking water and suicide rates, particularly in the male population. And that inverse association was like an opposite thing. So maybe it dulls them down, but it doesn't stop them from offing themselves. I don't know.
Well, men tend to, like, women tend to, when it comes to suicide, and women tend to do it more not to kill themselves, but to get attention.
Yeah.
Whereas men actually do it to, like, die, sort of thing. And it does fit into the women being far more communal and nurturing and supportive of each other, whereas men tend to be more, individual and stuff, like, just for good reasons, right? It's the balance between the two, the male and the female, that is the ideal sort of way. But you could see how that plays out. But think about the suicide forest in Japan, right? YouTube pushed that massively, right? And all these things are connected, just like Susan Wojcicki and Ann Wojcicki, 23andMe, and Google, and Elon Musk, and where it's all Bill Gates. All these things are connected. So the suicide forest, it becomes synonymous with Japan. It becomes synonymous with suicide, Japan. People make that correlation. They know. And again, with the movies, like the Battle Royale, for instance, the original Battle Royale is actually set in Japan, and it follows that theme. It's a bunch of high school students in Japan that are dropped on an island and have to kill each other off, right? So, and that's the Hunger Games, because it's rebooted as the Hunger Games, and the Hunger Games is Fortnite and Players Battleground, and lately the Fall Guys. So all and Survivor and everything else.
Sorry, Fortnite. Did you see? I heard about it on This Week in Google again. That the Fortnite 1984, this thing that just happened.
No, but they just had Wonder Woman 1984 as well.
Oh, really?
Yes.
It's something with Apple and their app store or something, but they have this whole video of Fortnite with 1984, and that's what they're like. Wow, this is really just like 1984. It's a video game.
Oh yeah, and they put out as well at the same time, and I haven't even had a chance to cover it, which was Yuri Bezmenov using the Call of Duty.
Oh yeah, I remember you mentioned that.
Yeah, so sure most people probably know this, but Yuri Bezmenov is like a former KGB sort of Russian intelligence colonel or whatever, and he talked about how to deconstruct a nation in one generation, and everything that he said is happening basically, right? And so they actually used him in the latest Call of Duty sort of promotional video, and they made more than one version of it. But the 1984, so Fortnite's using the 1984 symbolism. They just had trending #1 the other day, Gail Gadot in Wonder Woman. So Gail Gadot is former Miss Israel.
Yeah.
Right? And she plays Wonder Woman, and it's set in 1984. So it's called, the next Wonder Woman film is coming out. It's called Wonder Woman 1984. So also there's a game.
What 1984?
It's George Orwell.
Yeah.
Right. It's what it is. It's
people will now associate it with Fortnite and Wonder Woman. Yeah.
I think it's partially just rubbing it in our faces that, yes, this is all manifesting. Like, you are, like, it's a form of learned helplessness in many ways. Like, if you can, because a certain percentage of the population, like most of the population's dumb, right? That's not even contestable. That most people are dumb. They're not capable of critical thought. And that's like 85 or 90% of the population. So unfortunately, that's why the masses are used. But there's also a percentage of the population that are awake, or certain levels of awakeness, like people like us, that are seeing a lot of this and understand how evil it is. And they also want to be able to corral us and make us think, you know what, there's nothing you can do. It's just going to happen, right?
Yeah.
1984 is here. Everything that you feared is actually manifesting, except it's worse than you ever imagined, and it's happening quicker than you ever imagined. So there's a massive form of learned helplessness that is being used. You could say gaslighting to a certain extent as well, but certainly learned helplessness. But yeah, the 1984 theme fitting in. Again, It's so, because double speak, right? What I'm showing all over the world, but especially with Australia.
All the social distancing things.
They say staying apart keeps us together. That is classic 101 double speak. Double speak is saying something and then saying the opposite and saying they're both, it's like a paradox, saying a paradox actually, staying apart keeps us together. Well, no, staying apart actually keeps us apart, but it's a form of double speak, making you think, oh, it's actually good that we stay apart because that actually keeps us together. That is classic. It's not even, it's so disturbing that they're so brazen with it that they actually come out and use that as a slogan, right? But it just goes to show you that they feel that there's nothing that can stop what they're doing, and that, I guess at this point it's just everything's coming out. The whole satanic element is just peeking everywhere, Luciferian sort of imagery and symbolism everywhere. End times. Apparently, they burned a red heifer just the other day in Israel, which is supposed to be a prelude to building the third temple, which is all dealing with end of times prophecy. So and again, a lot of this could just be, making people believe that there's no way to stop what's happening, right? Like a lot of this is, I believe what they're trying to do is just spook us into thinking that there's no way to resist their new world order. But yeah, it's all happening. And again, with this concept of drugging all of humanity, again, that would be a precursor. THX 1138, I talked about that. I mean, it's like, as well, where they're driving people underground to escape this new world order and having a future civilization just living underground. They've shown this in so many different elements. And then just recently it was Trump and the American military announcing that they're doing these massive underground sort of training exercises and all this. And it's like, why would they be going underground? What the hell is going on?
Well, and doesn't Elon Musk have his tunnel company too? Like
yes. What do they call it? Bohr something? Bohr X or whatever?
Golly, what is it? I can't even think of it.
I'll look it up here quickly. I think it's Bohr something. So I'll put Elon Musk tunnel. Boring. It's boring. Yeah.
The Boring Company? Really?
Yeah, they're Boring Company. Boring. I mean, that's just crazy too. And that all fits in. Well, I mean, they're talking the Hyperloop and whatever else. The Hyperloop could also be a symbol of their sort of worm Ouroboros or their circles, and we talked about that before, the circle sort of symbolism coming in. You showed something earlier to me before we went online with Dave Edgar's, right?
Book, The Circle, not the movie. It was terrible, but the book is. It's all about everybody's got cameras on them, and the ingestibles and the tech companies run everything. And it's like a beast company that absorbed all the Facebooks and the Googles and everything. And yeah, really crazy book.
All right. So what's this here? Unfit for the future, the urgent need of moral bioenhancement.
Yeah, this is a couple years old, but this guy here, he wants to put lithium in the water. He's a big fan of fluoride too. But yeah, he talks in here about how the ability to create these weaponized, like the printers, the printers that since anybody could do it, and we're all screwed up, how did we get this way? How did we get down? How did we get so screwed up? It's like it's been done to us, but how you have to consider putting drugs and changing the way people are because of these dangerous technologies that are available. Now, he's in Australia. I think he's Monash. It's a Israeli Australian collaboration sort of university thing. But this is a crazy listen. If people, I'll link to it too. But yeah, it's awful to listen to him.
You have to pinch yourself. You're like, yeah, they're actually doing everything that they said they would do in these dystopic sci-fis, whether it's Brave New World or 1984 or Gattaca or, It's all they're doing everything. It's like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Let's put that in too. Hey, you guys watch all the Black Mirror episodes. Let's include all those too. You know, hey, yeah, the robotic dogs that hunter killer dogs there. Yeah, let's put those in. They're doing it all. All of this is all manifesting, and it's not like make believe, as we're showing you. Like they are actually forcing humanity to take morality pills and put lithium into water, along with already fluoride and whatever else they're putting in. And
because how can your water authority or your water company, where do they get the prescriptive power to medicate whole populations? It's crazy.
The same power that's at it's all an illusion, right? It's like their power right now doesn't really exist. Like what's happening in Melbourne, people, if they just stood up and said no, you know, as Grace said, really graceful in her excellent
great video.
Yeah, really great video. Like people got to learn the power of the word no, right? Stand up and say no. If everyone said no, then maybe Mr. Andrews and co. would be getting the justice that they so richly deserve, which I can't even fathom what would be, what would be necessary for those people. But I've never seen such tyranny in the modern world. You know, I put up you probably saw it on my Patreon there, a poll, and so on my Patreon, I had a poll in which I'll tell you the latest here, because I was going to save it for Friday, but I'll tell you what the latest numbers are here, where I asked the question. I said, what did I say here? Which is worst? Which one is the worst? And so I said, which of the following totalitarian regimes, both fictional and non-fictional, is the worst? And I gave a bunch of examples. I said, Oceania, Bolshevik Russia, Khmer Rouge, Cambodia, Maoist China, North Korea, Brave New World, Nazi Germany, Panem from Hunger Games, The Purge, and Victoria, Australia. And Victoria, Australia is way out in front.
Oh my.
Now, and people in the comments have said, come on, it's not as bad, say, as say Bolshevik Russia or Khmer Rouge, like where millions of people. Not yet. That's right. Not yet. But don't underestimate and see where it goes. In fact, the rapidity or the speed at which this totalitarianism has been unleashed is breathtaking. And also
how everything else spread around the globe. It happens one place and they do the same thing everywhere else.
And also, there's differences with Khmer Rouge and Bolshevik Russia and other sort of examples, even Nazi Germany of totalitarianism, is the tech, which was what we're discussing today. We've never had the governments have. It's a wet dream. It's an absolute wet dream, right? Yep. Stalin would be, just thrilled to have this type of tech to watch every single person, because and you could say Cuba as well. Whenever there's dictatorships, it's spying. So like in Cuba, for example, the Castro sort of dictatorship, what people feared was all the spies, and they don't know who the spies are, right? Because you could be having dinner at your uncle or your cousin or your uncle or a friend down the street sort of thing. And if you said something at some point that questioned the government, you could disappear in a couple of days. And this is the same with Stalin and Mao and Khmer Rouge, probably the worst example of it. Anything you say, and the rules get more strict every time. Like every day now you're it's like the curfews. It's like the rations. So the rations, for instance, they introduced the concept for ration, and they say, okay, look, they show you the stuff on the news, and they say, look, there's going to be food shortages because we had to stop production, and because we stopped production, and there's a log jam or there's a bottlenecking, right? And they can't get the resources out to the stores, and therefore, and this is what I talked about when they showed, like earlier in the scamdemic, say back in February and March, when it was really kicking off here in North America. They were saying, we go to the grocery store, and all of a sudden they say, You're only allowed to buy 1 carton of milk.
They still have that notice in the weekly newsletter for my co-op. Yeah, they still say you can only buy 1 gallon of milk.
And just now, as you see, they introduced that concept to you. So you're like, oh my God, I thought we lived in capitalism. I thought you could buy as much as you want. Also, remember the women with the toilet paper.
Yeah.
Right? They show, especially in Australia, it's where they showed it. And there's like women getting into fist fights over toilet paper. And what they say is first they put out in the news, well, items that you probably should stock up on, and they'll say toilet paper. And then people will start to, oh, I better stock up on toilet paper. Right. And then they go to the store, and then next thing you know, the stores, whether it's organic or it's been somehow orchestrated, obviously the whole thing has been orchestrated, but you know what I mean? Like there's a shortage. All of a sudden people are getting into fist fights. All of a sudden it's making the news. It's planting the seed in your brain that there's shortages, that there's going to be restrictions. You're getting you used to the concept. And then next thing you know, they're talking about rations. Yep. So where it goes from, you don't need to wear a mask. It's not good. In fact, it's bad to wear a mask because it's the healthcare workers that need it too. You know what? We're suggesting that you start putting face coverings on and stuff like that. Luke Radowski and co start putting out stuff like that. And then it's all over the beast media. And then next thing you know, it's, face masks are mandatory now to get into a business. And then it starts here, starts there. And the next thing you know, it's everywhere. They get everyone used to it. Then face masks are no longer mandatory. They're compulsory.
Yeah.
Then it's face masks are good, but they're not enough. In fact, now face shields along with face masks and goggles and gloves and whatever else might be needed. So they're incrementally moving the goalpost.
But that it's not a law. It's the retailers that are bringing this on us. We're imposing it on our neighbors.
Yeah, it's not law because it hasn't, like for a law, it has to go through legislation, it has to go through the bodies, right? The governmental bodies. And it has to, now in Canada, we have, again, suspended parliament, which they can do all this stuff, right? This is one of the tricks that they have, is they can suspend parliament, or they can have a skeleton crew that can come in and pass these things. And I talked about this back when the whole thing was kicking off, and the potential of the Emergency Act, the war, or the martial law and stuff like that being declared in Rainbow Unicorn Land and whatnot. But yeah, they have set all these things in motion, and then they are incrementally applying them, and they're setting the example. So what they do, like Australia, honestly, people should be, in my opinion, people should rise up against the government in Victoria. I think, honestly, I mean, I'm not here to promote violence, YouTube community, but there is no way that you should be putting up with what's happening. There's no way, because you have no guarantee that you will ever get that freedom back. No guarantee. In fact, we might be all witnessing the absolute destruction of all freedom as we know it. And it just might be that Melbourne right now is the best example of how it's all coming. Because as you say, just as you mentioned before, they start here and then they get used to the idea. Next thing you know, it's in your neck of the woods. Just like
first they came from Melbourne. I didn't care. I didn't live in Australia.
Exactly. And how they flipped the table on like, again, another thing to talk about, my body, my choice, where the Democrats, the demon rats, push that with the feminism, right? My body, my choice. I should be able to kill a baby if I don't want to have it, right? Sort of thing. And yet, when it comes to vaccines, it's the opposite. It's a double speak.
Social good. You've got to give up your body for the.
You got to give up your body for the New World Order, because you got to keep people morally safer.
Yeah.
Right. It's all part of how they're. Of how they're conditioning us into this NWO. It's absolutely breathtakingly evil to see how this is all manifesting and passing through. And go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, it's just occurring to me that I forgot to have another thing opened up, and I'm not going to go searching for it. Who knows what it'll do to the computer? But I wanted to mention how. And it's not just the people working in the hospitals. I see people out and about all the time wearing their scrubs. They work in medical, whether it's a health, old age or the hospital or wherever, but they're scrubs and they have a mask on. And my mom is a retired nurse practitioner, and she she had sent me all this information on nosocomial infections so if anybody were to be hassled by anybody, if they weren't wearing a mask and they were hassled by anybody that was wearing scrubs and a mask out and about, that's why the nurses don't wear caps and doctors aren't supposed to wear ties and all this, because they touch them and their clothes are harboring all the cooties, whether they're on their way into work or on their way out of work. I wanted to mention that. I'll put a link in. Yeah, nosocomial infections.
I think most people know that the masking thing has nothing to do with this pandemic. That it's all just social engineering. It's the lockstep. It's how we're going to do this to you, and you're going to comply because we can, sort of thing. It's absolutely horrifying what's going on.
All the
witness
back to school videos, I'm seeing them. It's
the children, it makes me cry. Like it's so disturbing to think that, because I put myself in that situation, and I was just a little terror as a kid. There's no way I would comply with this stuff, but I could just imagine how horrifying and traumatic it would be for children, because you're already dealing with all going back to school is stressful for kids, right? It's like you don't know what to expect. You're hoping you're going to be popular and you're going to have friends and
play with your friends.
Box. You're gonna like want to have the right clothes and stuff like that. All the things that kids like. And then you're going through your hormonal sort of, your body's changing, all these things, right? And all of that is already, super stressful for kids. Now they're coming into this, and it's like, I've never seen. I mean, it just blows me away how evil it is. And the teachers, gotta say, most of them should not be teachers, without a doubt.
Yeah, if they don't have a problem with everything that's going on.
Yeah, if they don't understand how evil this stuff and how bad it is for children, you should not be teaching.
And you know how they normalized I know here, the security cameras everywhere. They had already normalized that for the children to feel like they're always being watched. And I know they had computers in classrooms before, but now some of my local back to school videos are like, there are microphones and cameras in every room now because they're splitting up the learning. So, but it's just like everything. You will always be watched. And these children are just ready. Yeah. I showed,
I don't know if you ever saw the Coca-Cola commercial. It was around 2013.
Catching the good things.
So Coca-Cola put out this commercial. I covered it, and it was like, it's time to look at security cameras in a different way. When they were showing security cameras around the world capture these awesome moments, and I was freaking out at how evil it was. I was like, look, they're trying to convince you that the surveillance is good for you.
Yeah.
It's so evil. And here we are. And it's like they are going to implement full-on surveillance. And they try to tell you, no, we're not really taking your details. You're not taking our details. I'm going to stores in my neighborhood, and they're trying to get you to sign in. And it's like, what? Are you kidding me? But that's it, right? It's all part.
The catching the good things as well as the bad in that book, The Circle, that they pushed it on. You should wear the camera, because otherwise, if you go climb a mountain or go kayaking, you are robbing the people who have illnesses and things that can't do that and would want to watch. And they want,
you're robbing them of your private freaking escape
experience.
Yeah. You're because and I say that, I mean, there's the reason why people climb mountains is to escape.
Yeah.
Right? The people that rock climb, it's to escape. Everybody that does that type of stuff, it's because.
Did you see that China, they installed the 5G towers on the highest point on this mountain? Now some base camp. They were very proud. Yeah.
I saw, my buddy was telling me, because I went out to see him the other day, and he's like, Jeff, you can't believe it. They installed all these 5G towers. And I was driving around his neighborhood, and sure enough, it's super tall too, 100, 200 meters up in the sky.
And all the little cylinders on the telephone poles. That's what we have here. They've been installing the fiber everywhere. That's the backhaul. And then, And
whatever the 5G, again, there's a lot of obviously a lot of conspiracy. I mean, everybody should be adamantly against it, period, just because, you know, the potential for what they could do with it.
The surveillance,
the surveillance alone,
nightmare. Yeah,
the surveillance alone should make you against it.
Let alone the health things. There's so many different kinds of technologies being used for it. I know it's on the list, the to-do list, to make a clip video. I've got some great clips where they're talking, the tech people talking about all the different kinds that I gotta.
Yeah, you're so good at putting those together. I know it's difficult to find the time, but
it's hard.
We really need. Can we make a few Camille clones?
Well, maybe there are. I don't know. You know, maybe there are.
I said, you know, if we had a few hundred really graceful clones and a few dozen Camille clones, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think any Jeff C clones would help.
Oh, God.
It'd be too many. But yeah, I know it's difficult to find the time and all that. And are you okay with time right now, or
all right now? Do you want to talk about the little bit of food stuff before
Absolutely.
we go?
Let's do it.
Well, we could go first to your. I know it's one that you talk about a lot. The salmon. That I saw this come up that they had some setbacks, but COVID-19 and all that, it's helping to bring it out now. I didn't underline things here, and I have it printed out for myself, but that they're going to be more honest with people now, because these edits that they're doing, and there's another article that I have here that's talking about this, that these edits, this is nothing that nature couldn't do given enough time. Mm-hmm. It's not something, this isn't GMOs. You know, this is okay. This is natural, because it's just helping nature along, you know. But and they talk in this one about how they're the feed and everything, that's biotech. The fish feeds that they're giving these little creatures when they farm them. But these guys are doing it in aquaculture. But yeah,
it's so diabolical. I mean, you think about this, and it's already happening with the Bill Gates mosquitoes, right?
Yeah.
And it's already happened with the fish farms, like the fish farms, you know, that the fish get out inevitably, right? And then they get into the wild, and then all of a sudden they wreak havoc on the action. You think about, oh my gosh, salmon is, like, to me, it's one of the greatest things in the world, right? Like the salmon runs and stuff, and their whole life cycle. It's just so incredibly beautiful and moving and powerful and majestic. And like, it's my favorite fish, by the way, too, is salmon. And it's like, how diabolical is it that they're making these Frankenfish?
It's the perfect time for them now, because it's more sustainable, you know, and that's such a big thing, especially right now, as we see that the climate change is causing coronavirus. And
they're putting out articles saying that the salmon are, you know, threatened, and their data is showing that they're low in numbers and stuff. And well, here's the perfect time now, because we can't be farming. Also, the demonizing of the fishing industry, which has been going on for many, many decades.
Oh, and Fukushima, you know, you don't want to eat wild fish.
Yeah. And, you know, and you think about that too with Japan. That's their diet, right? Like the reason why Japanese people typically live longer than just about any other people in the world. That's true, by the way, if you don't know this. They say the Mediterranean diet and the Japanese diet are two of the best diets in the world, because it's mostly fish. Most of their protein comes from fish.
There was quite a while there that I was kind of tweaked out about fish after Fukushima and everything. I'm like, I don't know. But now it just seems like it is the perfect, the cell cultured fish and the plant-based fish, they have those now for everybody. Like I've been buying more fish now from a small fishery, which is great. But yeah, they really aimed to ruin. What if it wasn't so bad? I'm not saying it wasn't so bad. What if it wasn't so bad as they say? And I don't know.
Of course it's never as bad as they say.
Yeah, I mean, those flowers do you remember those like weird stretched out flowers that they showed? I saw pictures that they said, look at how weird these flowers are growing in Fukushima. My mom had one like that in her garden.
I didn't know you were referring to Fukushima, but yeah, the interesting thing about Fukushima, again, it's an invisible enemy too, right? Like you know, like if you went there, you'd probably be like, wow, it's beautiful and there's animals everywhere, right? And they seem to be thriving. And the same with Chernobyl, right? Chernobyl too. And it's like, I'm not saying, obviously there's something. Like, I'm not saying that the nuclear energy doesn't exist. Of course it does, right? I mean, there's 500 plus plants around the world, and they're building dozens more. And I think nuclear energy is abominable. And people say, no, it's clean and it's better than coal. Like, just for instance, we were discussing that the other day, and one of my listeners was saying, oh, they just shut down the big coal plant where they were, sort of thing. I think it was in Ireland maybe, or something. I can't remember.
Is there a video of the smokestack coming down or something?
Yeah. Like they okay, yeah, that it's not the cleanest form of energy, is coal and stuff like that. But it's, you know, the repercussions of a nuclear meltdown are incalculable, right? Like,
well, and doing this synthetic biology energy thing, I mean, the Department of Energy was huge in backing the Genome Project and all of this Tinker Toy stuff. They're all about it, because they want to use these little recreated nature things to make power, generate power, digest the garbage to generate power, and yeah, well, that's
cool with you know, the type of tech that would be developed to, like, say for instance solar power. Like, I think that's good tech. Like, why not? It's there.
What is the environmental cost, I wonder, from getting the goods to make them? Like the cheap Chinese solar panels, how long does it take to, and I use China, I don't even know if they're making them over there anymore, because they're the developing people.
Well, they make everything.
well, they're shifting that. They want to bring it all here. You know, they want to move stuff over so that we can be contaminated. Like, we let them be contaminated for so long. And we know the EPA protects over here, right?
Yeah, like, for sure, right?
Whatever color it was. But
wow.
But yeah, what is the how long does it take to use that? Will it keep working long enough to justify the mining?
Oh, yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah, exactly. Because there's a cost for making those things, right? It's like, like Elon Musk is making solar panel roofs and stuff like that, right? Yeah. And the concept is great and it sounds wonderful, but you still have to make that stuff. And how are you making it? Well, you're still extracting, you know, chemicals and resources from the earth, and using
even that hydropower, even that, like, floods areas, that releases stuff from the soil and changes whole habitats and everything.
That's what we have. That's what we have here in Quebec. Thankfully, I'm going to say thankfully, because I know the cost and all that for the ecosystem, but nonetheless, Ontario went nuclear power plants and Quebec went hydro plants. We only got one nuke plant here, which it's in Gentilly, and they're going to shut it down. But Ontario, I think, has a dozen nuclear power plants. One of them is right next to Toronto, the Pickering, which recently last year had a false alarm, right? Where it's just like, you imagine a false alarm, you get a notice. There's an incident that happened at the Pickering nuclear power plant. We urge citizens to evacuate the area. It's like 20 kilometers from Toronto. So if it had a Fukushima meltdown, you would have to evacuate Toronto, which is like 8 million people plus the Greater Toronto area. So, you know, and they're all the nuclear power plants in Ontario, just like in the United States. Many of them are around the Great Lakes because they use the Great Lakes to cool them, right?
Yeah.
To keep and even the depots are on the Great Lakes themselves, or right next to the Great Lakes. So you could think of the disaster of the century unfolding with the greatest sort of lake system in the world, with all these power plants. But I still think, you know, hydro energy, even though environmentally it can be destructive, is the cleanest of all the bad options, if you will. But really,
I don't know what's the best. I don't know.
But I mean, like, what are we using our energy for? Like, here in Rainbow Unicorn Land, for heating, right? And then maybe air conditioning in the summer. And yeah, those are necessary things, I guess you could say. I mean, I will put up a little small air conditioner in my office here to do the shows, because it can get really hot and way too uncomfortable to actually do it. But I don't use it in my bedroom. I won't sleep with it. I'll have a fan going, sort of thing. And then we think about all the gizmos that people
this
use.
world that they're building, the amount of energy they say that to do the internet of everything and how skyrocket. I mean, that they're not getting rid of oil and coal. They're not getting rid of all of that stuff. This is on top of.
Yeah.
Because they need so much more power. Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, with petroleum, it's most of what we have is built with it, right? So it's like you could say, oh, we could stop driving, right? And or go to the electric cars, but what's the cars made out of, right?
Well, yeah, it's also the food and the clothing and the pharmaceuticals, all of that. Yeah.
It's all petroleum.
That biodesign people that we talked about, I think last time, the biodesign challenge, they were doing the PPE, the personal protective gear stuff, the synbio versions to break down better. It's like, what happens when these things break down in the environment? I don't even know. It's all.
Yeah, more with the food here.
Let's see. Yeah. Oh, I kind of talked a little bit about what these guys were saying. This progressive grocer that they say it's coming.
What's called the Trithith?
Yeah.
Abby Klecker. Kleckler.
They're talking about making stone fruits that don't have pits and berries without seeds and all these things, and how they'll be there. It's okay because nature could have done it too, and people need to eat more fruits and vegetables. So they're talking about how consumers will accept it if they go about it the right way, because it's not
Codex Alimentarius.
Yeah.
Everything that they said with Codex Alimentarius, which is the UN sort of document for how they were going to take our foods, and especially our plants and fruits and vegetables, and just bioengineer them and basically extract all the nutrients and keep all the sugars and stuff to make it taste. Because like you look at the stuff now compared to stuff that how like say apples and bananas looked on your store shelves in say the 1980s, or like compared to what they look like now, right? Like it's like there's sorry, go ahead.
They're trying to say here how this stuff isn't on the shelves yet, but maybe not their fancy pants. There's no pit in your cherry, but they've had for years those GMO organisms that create those magical non-GMO products that's been in the food for years already.
It started with the watermelon too, because the watermelon is the one thing that almost makes sense, right? That you don't have the pips in it.
Yeah.
And so oh wow, isn't this great? Seedless watermelon. Oh, it's good. It's okay. It's organic. No, it's not.
Certain things I'm sure can be accomplished by selective breeding of plants. Yeah. But,
and they've been doing that forever, right? So that's going back thousands of years.
Yeah.
And that's different though. That's selective breeding. So you're still using nature. You're just crossbreeding and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So and they've done that, like apples, for instance, are a great example of that, because many of the apples that and love are actually just species that have been crossbreeded together. Although now you add the genetically modified element to it all. But yeah, it changes everything, because like when Neil deGrasse Tyson gets up and says, why are you worried about genetically modified foods? Do you know how long we've been manipulating crossbreeding? Well, that's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing. They use the synthetic biology and the ferment, all of this there. But we've been doing this with beer and bread forever. It's like, it's not the same. I'm sorry. You're making E. coli make the bits and pieces of breast milk. I'm sorry. It's not the same thing.
Synthetic breast milk has got to be the scariest thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies doing that. I know the Bill Gates one got talked about for a little while there, but there's quite a few. There's quite a few companies that are making the parts and that are doing the whole thing. It's crazy. But they do say that babies, there was a big push for babies everywhere, should all around the world have access to breast milk, maybe even the babies that don't have moms. because some families think
and so it's like creating the problem and offering the solution, the Hegelian dialectic, in everything. That's how they do it all. And that's why you pay attention to these stories. And it's like they're saying here in your article, where it's like just 1 in 10 adults eats fruits. I mean, you guys, you got to be kidding me. Look at the garbage that you push on every single human being. I mean, are you serious? I mean, you walk into a convenience store and it's just all garbage. It's all cancer. It's all of it's bad for you. And it's like, like all of a sudden KFC cares about people's health, and that's why they're making mock, what is it, Soylent Green chicken or whatever they're making now. I mean, they call it plant-based, right? Because it's made from plants. It's like, whatever. It's made from plants. It's like, it's so crazy too. I mean, it's wow. I mean, everything is being changed. Everything, and all of this connected. We said, like, we talked about this before, where the FDA, started lifting restrictions and allowing companies to supplement base ingredients in starting with whatchamacallit,
vending machines.
Vending machines. Yeah, that's it. And like starting with that. And that's one of the things that they push a lot too with the food, like how you get your food in the future. They show Japan all the time. And they have these hideous butt feed shills that go over, like Safiya Nygaard and people like that will go over to Korea and Japan and show the vending machines. And wow, you can get your meals from a vending machine. Well, they're prepping you, because with this scamdemic, say goodbye to mom and pop restaurants. Also, this is really important. I think one of the most important things, although everything is important, but one of the most important things to point out about this is they're crushing the whole mom and pop sort of restaurant cafe industry. And it's all going, Starbucks is not going away. McDonald's is going nowhere. They're going to grow. KFC, all these things, they get to stay open. They get to continue, and that's what they're going to do. Like they showed it in what was it? The movie Demolition Man, in which they don't touch each other in the future because of scamdemics, and they have a complete surveillance system completely rolled out. And so it's a film from the early 90s, which I think you should check out there, Camille. I know you don't have much time.
Long ago. But
you did? Okay, yeah, you might want to see it again.
Long ago.
Yeah, but the idea of, there's only Pizza Hut or Taco Bell as the future restaurants. Well, they're moving us towards that.
They'll be the only company, the only businesses that'll be able to afford the ventilation systems and all of these new requirements to be able to stay safe.
You can, the restaurant, bar, cafe industry is cutthroat as it is, like 2019, say, right? To keep a bar or a restaurant or a cafe or something like that afloat is it's like most of these people that own these places, unless it's a massive franchise like Starbucks or something like that, you're working 12, 15 hours a day. You're busting your chops, you're cutting corners, you're doing whatever you can to make it, because it's most small businesses close, of course, within a year of opening and stuff. It's like that's why you have bankruptcy and stuff like that.
And now they've got them down to 25% capacity. And what happens?
It's impossible. It's impossible. You can't. You couldn't do that. Period. Yeah. Like, it's impossible for these businesses to survive. What are they going to do? Jack up their prices, which then people will be like, no, sorry, I'm not going to pay $5 for a cup of coffee, which and then, of course, with the elimination of cash at the same time, which also is another important thing to point out, because when it comes to convenience stores and cafes and whatnot, here in Quebec, it's a given, right? Like they say, at least 50% of all money that comes into businesses is not declared. Right. And this is how these businesses stay open. So I don't complain when I go in a convenience store and buy something and I know that they're not really ringing it through the register. I don't care, because I know that the government is the biggest, scamming entity that exists, and they're here to suck as much money out. And I know that a lot of these businesses can't survive unless they can do things under the table. Well, eliminating cash eliminates all of that.
Oh yeah, and we know, like I showed in one of my recent videos, how the government is, all these little local governments even is who's raking it in and who's going to benefit, not only because of the surveillance, but with this whole techno takeover and hyping up of the pharmaceuticals and everything, because they all own them through their comprehensive annual financial reports. You can see in their pension funds and whatnot.
That's right.
They own it all, so they're all going along with it for a reason.
Yes, because they're that's where they're financially invested into.
Yeah.
That's crazy, eh? When you think about it.
I have one more link.
Yeah.
I have one more link, and I'm not saying, I have not looked at this company. I've not looked into them, so I'm not saying it's biotech, but the what it is scary. So they even talk about in this article the repercussions, the whole industry-wide implications that a decision like this, to allow them to use the word butter, because it's okay. They said, the ruling said that it's okay, that even though butter was defined as having X amount of milk fat or whatever, that is okay, because they are obviously using the words made from plants and all this. They're not hiding it, but they say that how far reaching this it will be to be able to say butter and then say cheese, and because that was a battle, And
well, remember the margarine and butter, and how
they talk about that in here.
The milk or the butter industry fought against the coloring of margarine because it was fooling people into thinking, wow, it's just like butter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the 2020 version of that, where it's like, it's butter, if that's not butter, no, it's butter. You could say it's butter.
What happens when it's like cell cultured and not made from plants? If they've made the ruling now that these alternative products, it's okay, it's all right. And guess where the problems were started? The claim against it came out of California. I'm sure you're shocked, because they've got to set the standards. They've got to make the rules for all of these things. They have to challenge it so that they can define what everything is going to be and how it goes. And they won. That it's not misleading, and it's okay. Like I said, I don't know anything about this company.
Well, it's just, it just keeps going. I mean, this beast system is just going to take over everything. That's why, really, when we say solutions, and we talk about it a lot, folks. Camille and I are very into solutions with this, and she actually, I'm in the big city sort of thing, but you're in a much better position to do the local.
I've been visiting the Amish a lot.
That's really cool. Are they wearing their mask?
No mask.
No mask. Eh?
No, but I saw one person and it was so loose around her face. I stood right next to her, talking to her, telling her all the stuff that I had got the time before. They thought I worked there. I'm like, no, I just talk about food everywhere I go and talk.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are you still giving out the cards and stuff?
I need to get more. I need to get more printed. I've got them all designed with the website on there. Oh yeah, and on the website, there were a couple days there that all of my posts were gone. You could go to all the other tabs, but and you could see the background, but it was so, I don't know why it happened. And it's through WordPress, and they told me when they finally got back to me days after it came back, there was no outage. No. I'm like, no, well, I had people states away looking at this and nobody could see it. You couldn't see any of the posts, but they all seem to be back now. But if anybody tried to go there, it's better again. But
that might have been because of stuff in the news and stuff, and they're like, oh, we better conceal this. It
was the same day that I put out the contact tracing, the location-based contact tracing, and I know that my sister said she got the post that comes in the email, but others said that they didn't. So. I don't know. Weird.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So anything else, or should we close her up?
That's all I have so far here today. But we'll have to do this again soon.
Oh, yeah.
I always say that.
No, I know how busy you are, so I leave it up to you to contact me and let me know when you're available. But these shows are extremely important. I hope, yeah, maybe you can take this and upload it to your channel as well.
I will, and I'll put all the links that I showed.
Yeah, and everybody that's listening, we had close to 300 people listening there. Please go and sub Camille. All right, go. The links in the description. You can't get a better channel really out there. I mean, it's one of the best. So, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much, Camille, again, and we'll be back. You know, and we've got so much more to discuss. I'll be back on Friday for a live show. I'll be uploading shorter videos tomorrow, but I'll do a Friday night show. I'm looking forward to that and breaking out the bone broth and having a bit of fun. Last Friday was a bit dark because of some of the stuff that we're covering. But yeah, thank you all. We're all in this. I don't want to say that. That's their slogan, or they've culturally appropriated it.
We need to be in this together.
Yeah, you know, we need to just do the best that we can to get information and ideas across, and be the change, of course, that you want to see. Don't fight with people because that's what they want you to do. All right. Yeah. Like, stand your ground, but don't fight with people. And, you know, so much of what's happening is all being orchestrated, as is the resistance to a lot of this. So you have to be wary of that. But at the same time, solutions that you can apply to yourself is just start to get off their grid as best as you can. Just start to, you know, grow your own food, and, you know, if you can have your own livestock or whatever, those are real solutions that will keep you and your family safe longer. But also, we also have to be constantly vigilant against any sort of infringement upon our rights. I hope that this all backfires and that people realize that there's nothing that's more important than our rights, right? Like that the only way that we could ever be free is if we have our Bill of Rights, our constitutional rights, and that those are never infringed upon and can never. This is what I believe must come out of this, is that we must learn from what they've done and realize that those who sacrifice their liberties for security truly do deserve neither. That never should you ever sacrifice your liberties to feel more safe, because that's how they control us. And that's how all of this is being rolled out. And again, as I tried to illustrate, and I have for many years, is your television, your media, your movies, your video games, all your newspapers and everything, that's the beast. And the beast has been programming us all for decades into this fear of the things that they're going to use to bring in their new world order. So the fear of the invisible virus is been there for decades and has been programmed and driven into your cranium, and that's why this is happening. If so, turning your back on the beast, but also standing up for your rights is essential at every turn. Thank you all so much. Camille, you want to say anything closing up here?
Thank you for having me. I hope you could hear me. Do come, and you can find me at pleasestoptheride.com. I'm on YouTube, and people should also check out Venonymous. I am a werewolf, because he's been putting out some crazy
I'll mirror his video for sure. Yeah. It's a great video. And shout out to Venonymous and everyone. Thank you, all the great people in the chat. You guys are awesome. I won't talk to you today, but I'll talk to you on Friday. So yeah, come back on Friday. Maybe I'll do it on Jesse Live. I don't know. Either that or Encore, or maybe even Supreme Lord Commander. I think I'll leave Supreme Lord Commander because I don't want to lose that channel, just in case they're like, let's just hit any live video that he does. But yeah, you guys are awesome. Make sure you give us a thumbs up. Come and support me if you can on Patreon. My link's in the description. Really appreciate that. And huge thanks to all the patrons and everybody that supports this work. We're doing the best that we can. So thanks, everyone. We'll see you on the next one. Take it easy.